Welcome back. I am here with G2's Perkz, and you and G2 took the win yesterday, and yesterday EU went completely undefeated in the first day of groups. So does EU just have some sort of regional advantage over everyone else at Worlds right now?
Yeah, EU is clearly the best region in this tournament. What can I say? No, I think that EU is just like not as bad as people made it out to be, and that's why EU has been actually fairly competitive this year. And the Korean bootcamp does help EU teams because we learn how to play like more macro and like better scrim practices, etc., etc. So yeah, I wasn't too surprised about both wins, but it's only one game, so you can't take too much. We and EU as a general has struggled with inconsistency, so let's see if we can be consistent.
Well, you take on PVB today, a team that I know you and your teammate Wunder weren't quite sure what to really think about, judging from all the rumors flying around. But since you're taking them on today and you've seen them play yesterday, what are your thoughts coming into this match?
Well, apparently their top laner has like 33 kills or something, solo kills in the Vietnam League, and they were like, does he kill like 2 people each game or what? Like, I don't know, this is so insane. But yesterday he didn't get a solo kill, so he must have been like sweating a game, you know, like. Must be different for him going to like from playing against like worse players and playing against good players on Worlds. Maybe he just, yeah, he's not used to it, you know. So yeah, I think that team is not too bad. They have like good individual players from what I've seen, but they got really outclassed by Flashes yesterday. So I think that we should be able to win against them. Yeah, that's it.
And big prediction for the day, can EU pull off the repeat day of going undefeated?
Looking at our matchups today, I think EU can go 3-0 today.
Well, wishing you the best of luck, Perkz. Thank you. That's it for us here. Back to you.
Thank you, Overly, as we are gearing up for game number 2, where G2 Esports hope to rekindle their magic from yesterday versus Phong Vu Buffalo.
Yeah, they're coming hot off that upset yesterday. Obviously, a very impressive game, and you know, Perkz was kind of talking about how Xayah was struggling against better players.
When you're doing solo kill summon every game, you're struggling.
I mean, yeah, we'll see how he stacks up against Wunder, because that man has kind of established himself as the best Western top laner. I feel like everyone on the analyst desk and here on the broadcast is kind of in agreement with that, especially as in the play-ins, he kind of hard carried this team. He took them through the play-ins when Perkz was underperforming and they weren't having the best team play, and he really put the team on his back. And yesterday, again, his split pushing combined with Hjarnan and Heimerdinger were really pivotal in finding that win.
And I think it's also important to note that it's been a while now that he's been playing this well, right? It's throughout the summer split. It's at Rift Rivals. He was dominating at Rift Rivals, and now throughout the play-in and into the group stage, he has really been looking good. And this guy is really just kind of establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, weirdly, I don't remember one of those tournaments, but fans of the VCS at international events might want more from Phong Vu Buffalo on the other side of it.
Yeah, because remember, this was the team that's now, they kind of pushed out the Gigabyte Marines, and they're now representing the VCS, and expectations were from the fans that this was a stronger team than the Gigabyte Marines, that they had more versatility, and this was the former young generation. They brought in their new top and jungle, and kind of expectations were pretty high. We heard coming into the tournament that from scrims, they were really strong and that they were taking games off some of the best teams, and things were looking pretty positive for them. But yesterday, they did kind of get dominated by the Flash Wolves, and you could argue that Flash Wolves were the best in their group, so they had the toughest competition to kick things off. And going up against G2 today, one of the big things that you can say is that G2 didn't show the most consistency throughout the regular season, and while some perform on a very high level on day 1, you can't guarantee that they'll get that same performance on day 2. So I'm still looking at PVB as still strong contenders coming into this matchup.
Yeah, you definitely have to give them that respect. I mean, G2 also in the play-in, you know, didn't look as strong. I think Perkz wasn't playing to form. You have to remember yesterday, obviously Hjarnan got the Heimerdinger, which I don't think he's going to see it again at all throughout the rest of the tournament. So, you know, Phong Vu did not have a very good game on day 1, but it is just one game. We have to kind of see how they develop throughout the rest of the tournament, because as you alluded to, I had spoken to some coaches, some players who were super hyping up this team from scrim, saying they could get top 4 at Worlds. And while scrim results obviously don't always translate to stage, that certainly does speak to the individual skill of these players and the potential that they may have. And Perkz even talked about that in his interview, how good they can be individually.
And for me, it's that top laner Xayah that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. He did really dominate Hanabi in day 1 in that 1v1 matchup. Yes, he was on a pretty favorable matchup as well, but I think he's the kind of player that you heard it from Perkz as well. The guy was like getting multiple kills, and he, as an individual, it should be really strong. And I cannot wait to see him match up against Wunder. What kind of matchup we're gonna? I hope it's not tank v tank. I want to see
Carry versus carry, baby.
Have to agree there, but we are going to get ourselves into Champions League for G2. We'll have to see if they can continue.
I'm gonna quickly predict the Heimerdinger ban.
Oh.
Wild one. I know you won't expect it.
Insane. How did you know?
It's the Jace ban on the other side, so perhaps banning away one of those top lane carries for Xayah.
And to give a, this Jace pick was one of the big comfort picks for Xayah within the VCS, and that's why you saw it banned yesterday, you're seeing it banned again today, and teams just showing respect towards the top lane carry of PVB.
He also has really been a big fan of Aatrox, playing it both pre and post rework. It was actually his most played in the VCS, so certainly formidable on that champion as well. We saw him flexing on the Urgot yesterday, doing really well in that regard. Going to be interested to see if G2 is actually just going to make the trade. There's a lot of discussion about who should win this matchup and where the breakpoints are. I think certainly it is easier to play the Urgot than it is to play the
100%.
Aatrox. But the question becomes then, at the highest levels, if both these people are playing their champion to perfection, who really wins? And some of the Korean top laners do feel that Aatrox should win in that regard. So it's really interesting to hear the different opinions.
And the question, the discussion rather, we were having yesterday as well was that if you are picking the Aatrox into the Urgot, then you need a strong jungle matchup to go with it as well. Because if you want to be able to win this lane, you need to be willing to trade aggressively. You need to be willing to use all your abilities to kind of gain that advantage in the laning phase. And the only way you can do that is if your jungler has control over the top side room.
Yeah, I honestly see it very similarly to how, some of the matchups into Gnar used to work. People talk about Aurelia as this counter pick in the Gnar. But if you have a losing jungle matchup and you can't 2v2, well, you can never go aggressive and never jive onto this champion. That's kind of similar to how Aatrox works. Obviously, he can play it more safely, with his Q poke, but really you need to be moving aggressively forward. You need to be fighting this guy to be able to go even. And I think we're going to get the matchup, and we're going to get a bit of a treat here, seeing Wunder, who has been smashing, getting to play against Xayah, who just dominated this matchup yesterday. Maybe we'll get a little bit more insight into which side should be taken.
Now, remember, we talked about this in Game 1 of the day with the increased priority on the Xayah and Rakan. Yesterday, we saw G2 running the Rakan with the Heimerdinger down towards the bot side of the map. And typically, you see the Xayah priority because you force the opposition into picking away the Rakan, and then you can even then get a favorable support matchup, which is a really good thing to do. But G2 actually putting more value on the engage from the Rakan, and Wadid, over the last few weeks, has shown that he's way more comfortable when he plays these engage playmaking style champions. So they value that much more, especially over champions like Brawl.
It has been very interesting as well, because this is, I think, another pretty hotly debated topic right now of whether it's actually worth picking the Rakan away from the Xayah at the detriment to your own duo lane. Because when you end up with the Rakan Xayah, sure, 20 minutes into the game, that's incredible in the team fighting, but in the 2v2 lane, especially if you do pick a strong laning support to pair with that Xayah, you are going to be at a significant disadvantage. And there have been options in the past, like Morganas and things like that, that can answer into that Xayah Rakan. So we'll see if G2 can pair up well in that bot lane against this Xayah, and whatever support remains to be seen.
I think both teams have set themselves up pretty well here. Strong top lane matchup for both, with the Urgot there and Xayah plus Gragas was the next selection there for Phong Buffalo. So kind of where are we going next? As we are talking again, though, about top lane 2v2, I do want to highlight Meliodas from Phong Buffalo. He's kind of the other guy that really plays back up to the hard carry of Xayah in the top lane, so they can give him a strong jungler and maybe walk towards top and tip the scales in that matchup. That's another avenue to victory.
Now, Olaf is the big pick I'm looking for that I believe Phong Buffalo need to ban away. Just because of how comfortable Jankos is on the champion, it would give what we were talking about earlier, Azel, the strong top side of the map to allow Wunder to play the way in which he wants to, and on top of that, you give Perkz the counter pick too. So it would kind of all come together, and they already have the engage in the Rakan as well. So I don't think they need more engage from their jungler. They just want to give Jankos something he can make early plays on and get his lanes ahead with.
I'm going to be really interested to see if it's going to be something, like a blind pick Syndra for Naul, or if he's going to go towards Zoe, which actually was his most successful pick in the VCS. He was 8-0 on the pick, certainly is a favorite of his, and interested to see if he would be willing to blind pick that into such a strong mid laner such as Perkz, who will have counter pick.
Kind of interesting to see what G2 is setting up, though. We did have Talia Skarner banned in Phase 2, and Aurelia and Akali taken away from the mid lane as well. So Perkz, I guess, just wanting to play a bit safe and does take Ryze here.
Yeah, when you do see this blind pick, it generally means that there is a jungle pick that it has a contingency. They're kind of waiting to see, all right, if X happens, we're going to pick aggressive jungler.
Maybe the Gragas is support again. Right?
Exactly. So they really want to wait to see what the full composition is going to be. Very likely to decide if Jankos wants to play something aggressive and more early game, or if they want to play more of a team fight control style. That does give up the counter pick over to PVB, though, for Naul. So Perkz is going to have to deal with this Vel'Koz, and it will be Gragas jungle, Leona support. So Jankos, let's see what you got.
So this is a hard team fight composition from Phong that gives them a lot of early playmaking as well. Not typically around the mid lane, but bot side of the map, top side of the map, there are plenty of early ganking opportunities from Phong. And G2, they're just going to continue with the style that's kind of found them success with the Olaf and early game aggression. But G2 have much more of the 1-3-1 kind of going on. They're relying on the split pushing power of Wunder. They're kind of saying, we want you to get ahead in the top side of the map. Perkz, we need you to find an advantage in this mid lane on the Ryze. And a lot of that early lead is going to come off the back of Jankos in the jungle.
And I definitely think G2, as you say, want to go for 1-3-1. But Phong does have very good engage to attack that three-man squad. When you look at something like the Leona, like the Gragas, the potential for an explosive engage is very high.
Kind of wonder if they will stick this way as well. Obviously, they have 20 seconds, so they actually did use some flexibility there. They will actually move Aatrox mid lane, give it over to Perkz, and give Wunder the Ryze instead.
Yeah, I'm actually really annoyed that I didn't call this out, because when I was speaking to Grabs, he was saying that when we saw it in the best of 5, they did this same thing. They drafted the Ryze into the Urgot, and the reason is they believe this to be a solid matchup, one that won't win, but it won't lose either, and you can just be left to free farm in that lane, and while you're going to get pushed under your tower probably, it's fine, because you're Ryze, you're pretty safe. You can escape the vast majority of those plays, which means that G2, they're kind of going a regular season strat. Play around Perkz. He's on the Aatrox. Get him ahead against the very squishy Vel'Koz and see if you can find leads through the mid lane.
And it is pretty interesting, because I do think that that mid lane matchup becomes fairly high variance. You can see Perkz is going to be going Ignite, Electrocute, so certainly the potential to get those kills if they can get on top of this Vel'Koz. But if you start to fall behind against the Vel'Koz, Vel'Koz is going to have full wave control, is going to be clearing that out, and Aatrox may find difficulty entering into some of those fights.
And again, I really want to illustrate how in game 1, we kind of put emphasis on a FLICKR to create plays in the early game. Because if it got to that 5v5 stage, the ability to play those 5v5s was heavily towards one team's favor. And I kind of look at PvB draft, and they have a really solid front line with the Urgot and the Leona. They have loads of safe backline damage with the Vel'Koz and the Xayah. They scale pretty well. Like, this is really built for 5v5. And they can make plays in the early game, especially trans the bot side of the map.
Oh, and this is some sneaky stuff here. G2 is actually trying to set up to flank this brush. You're going to see G2 come from the top side. Wadid has already W'd over the wall, and he's going to come from all sides onto Zeros here, and they should at least get a flash.
Yep, Zeros is going to have to walk out of there. They will flash. No follow, though, from Wadid.
And this was actually a move from Fnatic during the regular season that they learned. I think you're bringing this, because yesterday we saw the Schalke play from Vitality, and now today we're seeing a move inspired by Fnatic during the regular season. And if you take a certain path through the top lane, even if you're sitting in that brush, you won't be spotted as you walk down towards it. So good pathing there from G2, and they're able to find an early flash from Zeros.
And it reminds me a lot of just, we've seen Gragas do this in the past, as you're talking about, and you know, Gragas, obviously, you used to see that play where they could actually body slam over the dragon wall and then try to come behind people who are sitting at that red brush. This is the same idea. Yes, it maybe makes your level 1 a little bit worse. You know, a lot of people would like to start Q, perhaps, but it's not going to be a big deal whatsoever. You're likely going to get pushed in regardless against this 2v2. So, hey, get a flash on the top side, give Wunder the advantage, and make Zeros play much more safe. Because it isn't just about the 1v1, it's about the fact that he now has to respect the Jankos gank so much more, and he may not be able to push any potential 1v1 advantage.
We'll see how this kind of develops. That Wunder already here to the wave. Zeros walked pretty safe back towards the top side of the map, as this is the other big lane to watch. Perkz, of course, kind of on a much harder carry champion for him, as they did flex this around in the draft, and the Perkz can get off to a good start with those aggressive summoners and runes. Be very curious to see kind of what he can do.
Looking at some of the jungle pathing that we're seeing from both sides. Jankos actually doing a full bot side clear into trying to get some river control because, again, it's this Leona Xayah lane that PVB have the easiest lane to play around in terms of early playmaking and kind of gank setup. And so he wants to try and secure this objective, but he doesn't have control over the bot lane wave, which means that Pallet can just easily walk up into the river, force Jankos away, and that's going to force Hjarnan and Wadid to play more on the defensive side. And this is a situation that they often find themselves in, but again, in terms of the early levels, they're just going to have to play on the defensive.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice, even just the fact that they didn't actually give that over to BigKoro. Meliodas is in a disadvantageous kind of jungle 1v1 here right now against the Olaf, so getting him that extra experience, that extra gold from the scuttle, certainly going to help him out in that regard.
And while this may be kind of a different type of game for G2 based on competition, kind of a throwback to the regular season, we will take a look at how they did yesterday versus a FLICKR, an extremely strong 4-1 split push style game, and this is the kind of gold graph you want to see as a fan of any team.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very slow and steady game in the early portions of the map, and I think a lot of it was a FLICKR trying to force plays, but they couldn't quite find the kills onto the Heimerdinger in the bot lane, and eventually got to a point where G2 were actually out macroing a FLICKR, and they showed that they weren't just reliant on an early game lead to snowball. They demonstrated that they didn't need their laners to be super far ahead of the opposition. They could actually just out-rotate their opposition and slowly take control through superior objective taking.
And I also really just like the fact that they were willing to hard commit to a split push style. You saw times where Wunder was not TPing to the fight. He was committing to taking turrets. He was committing to putting the onus on a FLICKR. And I think, again, you could end up in a similar situation where Perkz and Wunder are going to have the ability to try to force PVB's hand, to try to make them respond to what they're doing.
Well, you did see Jankos kind of clear through and maybe looked up, but instead checks the jungle with the Scry's Bloom as both jungles actually recall adjacent to each other over a wall and pick up their first early purchases. Back in mid zone, Naul doing just fine right now. Haven't seen too much of this matchup, so might expect the range to win out at least early points, but Perkz, I know, a very skilled player, very good on these melee style carries as well, so can certainly find some traction, and so far on CS looks just fine.
And one of the things really about Aatrox mid into casters is if you get to a certain breakpoint where you're able to actually hold the Aatrox off of the minion wave, then he's not able to kind of vamp up and heal up off those minions nearly enough. As long as he's having access to the minion wave, he started Doran's shield, it's going to be really hard to actually poke him down enough to kill him. So you have to hit a certain breakpoint where you're hitting enough spells and you're really starting to threaten him, and then it can snowball a little bit.
I completely agree with you, Azale. I think that matchup is entirely dependent on how much sustain Perkz is allowed to have access to, and so far he's doing a pretty good job. But once those items start coming through for Naul, especially the Lost Chapter, that's when we may see things start getting a little tough for Perkz, because again, while we're putting all this emphasis on Jankos to be that early proactive playmaker, and where he could look to play around is mainly mid and top. I mean, you could argue that with a Rakan, once you hit level 6, you could look to play around that lane, but Leona and Xayah is such a difficult and dangerous lane to gank because of their ability to turn things around. So G2, I really think they need to invest towards the top side of the map.
Have to agree that I think both junglers are going to need to track each other well and pick their spots when it comes to this early aggression. See, Meliodas is back out on the map. Does see a good chunk of vision here from G2. We'll miss the ward on the left side, but it's just about the timeout, so he'll get a little lucky there, and we'll find that control ward and take down the zombie ward as well, as Perkz does return to lane with a very respectful early merc treads.
Yeah, I think it's pretty smart. It does actually work on the Gragas knockup, which does actually count as a mini stun, so it doesn't count as a true knockup, so it's effective against that. And there is, a fair bit of slow and stuff that it can reduce also, as you are going to have the Glacial Augment Vel'Koz, so it makes a bit of sense. But one of the things I do always kind of somewhat disagree with from pro players is if you're going Merc Treads purely for the magic resist, it's often better to just sit on a Null Magic Mantle for a favorite 450 gold instead of spending the full 1,200.
Jankos is actually going to be aggressed on here. Ooh, Ignite already from the spellbook change up. There's the Ragnarok burn, and good flash as well from Jankos.
Damn, even throwing out the flash because the ulti came out from the Urgot now. You can see lying in wait is Pallet.
That little lane gank, but Perkz is staying safe and also has flash and his ultimate ready, so not too much danger he's in right now.
Yeah, it was just a really nice interrupt on the ult there from Perkz. His Q actually was still buffered before the knockup came through, so Null hit the knockup and thought he was free to ult, but the Q was already cast there for Perkz and did interrupt it.
And kind of backtracking towards that top play, Jankos, he actually thought that he was in a safe spot to go towards top because of the pressure that Perkz had in mid. He just didn't realize that Meliodas was topside and that Zeros actually had priority in the top lane as well. So he ended up getting collapsed upon, and he thought that with just his ulti he could get out of that situation, but he realized, okay, the moment the Urgot ult is on top of me, he knows that his half a life bar now becomes a quarter life bar, because if you drop below a certain point, you're obviously going to get executed. So I think the flash was made sense, but it also means it's that much harder now for him to try and make these early game plays. So I think the way in which PvP are playing, they're pretty happy with how things are going right now. Yes, their mid lane is a little bit behind in farm, but top lane is even, bot lane is doing fine. I would just like to see them now that they've hit that level 6 mark, Meliodas being the one to try and force plays, ideally around that bot map.
Yeah, and Meliodas, I think, will hit 6 off these Krugs, or at least will be very, very close, and will be on the bottom side of the map. So, yeah, is going to get 6. Certainly has the potential to go bot straight away, try to make a play if G2 does miss position whatsoever.
And they're clearing out the vision as well. You can see the pings on the mini-map. Control Ward ended up getting dropped down there. He's just hanging around this part of the lane. Pallet's still not quite that level 6 mark yet, but they're waiting for the bot lane to extend. But again, G2, they leave their bot lane on an island. This is a situation that Hjarnan did find themselves in often, even during the best of 5 against Infinity. 3 out of the 4 games, they had losing matchups. And it's just a situation that they're just comfortable. They're experienced playing in this situation. Just like, okay, we have to be safe. Our jungler often doesn't play around us, and often they're able to get through it without too much of a deficit.
Definitely personally impressed with how much pressure Hjarnan and Wadid have been able to absorb, even with the likes of Spirit Talia walling down there in the early stages of their game yesterday. They held firm and were just fine. Again, G2 just kind of playing it out slow. In fact, both these teams playing a pretty quiet first 10 minutes here in this game, but there's certainly a lot to play for as the game develops. Jankos is going to eat some harass, but he's got his ulti back, so he's just going to try and clear this water. Does what he can. Oh, goodness. He face-checked the ulti, and that's a first blood for Naul.
Oh, that was so bad from Jankos. The disrespect there. You ate pretty much a full combo from Naul, and you had no flash.
Yeah.
Naul was guaranteed to get the kill there. Both Xayah and I saw it happening, and then the moment he threw out the ult, we knew it was destined to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what he thought, but anyway, there's going to be a play on the bottom side. Meliodas is 6.
Leona did ding 6. There's the ulti, but doesn't quite knock Hjarnan the right way. Still Wadid locked up. He does flash, but he's ignited. That's a flash further from BigKoro.
This could be potentially a turret as well with the mini wave coming in. We'll see if they want to try to commit to it. Turret already fairly low, and Jankos with just a massive mistake there. Throws away his life, means he can't be on the bot side to protect it, which allows them to then make a play there, and they have the turret pretty chunk low.
Yeah, PvP gained so much off the back of this. They've now extended it to just under a 1,000 gold lead. You can see here, Jankos, he's already got the passive proc. At this point, he takes so much extra damage.
I can't believe do it back in.
And then here you go. It was just a complete disrespect, the amount of damage that Vel'Koz has. And the thing is, EU fans are now looking at this and being like, oh no, it's regular season Jankos back again. He makes these inconsistent plays and he gets punished for it. And here, Wadid, he's trying to say, oh, now we got to play.
Oh my goodness, Sarah's trying to make up for the solo kill he missed out on yesterday, but Wunder, he does reactionary flash out of there.
Meliodas is coming up though, and he still has his flash available, and the Urgot ultimate is up, so you could set that up.
They're going to show respect and back away.
Yeah.
And now G2 can answer in the bot side, but now things are looking really good for PvP. We said we wanted to see them get a lead in the bot side of the map. That was made even better because they got a lead in the mid. Now Perkz is in trouble.
Augment, Wunder, he's going to get popped, so the Resurrect will be there if he needs it. Naul, though, doesn't quite angle the laser off to the right, so Perkz does get out without needing to revive.
So Perkz walks away, but again, Naul spotting the mid lane, or spotting G2 members out and punishing them. They now get all this free damage onto the mid tier 1. PVB punishing multiple mistakes that G2 are making.
I mean, they're pressuring all across the map. Wunder had to run on the top side. Now you see Perkz sent back home on the mid lane. Bottom side, the turret is down below half HP. Phong Vu is looking really good and a much more kind of reinvigorated team today, right? Obviously, they did not look that strong against Flash Wolves. Perhaps some of that is nerves. Perhaps some of that is just how well Flash Wolves is playing. But here is Meliodas again on the bot side.
Flash.
Yep. Again, Hjarnan going to be the target. What a beautiful solar flare. And the ult to pop it all off as Meliodas celebrates by throwing a keg.
And Zeros didn't even need to TP in. It was just a zoning teleport to lock Hjarnan underneath the tower. G2's bot lane is getting dismantled right now as PVB, for the second time, invest ganks down there. They put Hjarnan even further behind. And this early game is going heavily in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, even just between the marksmen, the gold advantage is so big now for BigKoro. He's about 1,600 gold ahead, even just in that 1v1, which is a really big deal. you can see Xayah is holding his own, and even more than that, on the top side.
And this isn't a situation that you can blame Hjarnan for, right?
Yeah.
He lost his jungler, then 4 members very quickly rotated down, and because of that earlier play, they'd set up that ward behind the duo in the bottom side of the map. And again, PVB punished them for it, and this is such a big deal for PVB. G2 drafted towards this 1-3-1. They need to get an early advantage, and right now, this early game is not in their control.
And it certainly was, you know, Jankos' mistake to die in the mid lane, obviously, but it's very nice to see how well Phong is playing around that mistake, capitalizing
100%.
on it, punishing it time and time again. Not just the first kill, but as you said, setting up the ward for the repeat and looking constantly for more. Now looking to try to force on this Drift Herald, crack the top lane turret. They already had bot. You can see Hjarnan pushing down there, so this should be theirs.
Look, Pallet hasn't bought a lot this game, but he has gotten insane value out of these early mobility boots. He's been so active ever since that early bit of pressure. He's been on point with the skill shots, and now Wunder, he's the next victim. Soulflare barely going to miss as Wunder realm warps away.
Really unlucky there for Pallet. He tried to make the play. Wunder, bit overextended in the top lane. Almost got punished.
Yeah, I think he didn't actually have vision in the brush to see when the Ryze ultimate was started. So he was just hoping that Wunder hadn't started it early, but good job there by Wunder, starting it up very early, making sure that there's not time for Pallet to interrupt, and does cost him quite a few of his playmaking abilities.
Certainly think that safety first is a motto that G2 might need to start adapting in the early stages of this game. Wunder does do the right thing there.
Now remember, what we said was in terms of late game team fighting, PvP should have the advantage. Phong have a really solid 5v5 composition because they have the front line of Xayah and Pallet. They have a lot of engage tools. They have a lot of consistent damage output. And for G2, they're much more tailored towards the 1-3-1 style. Now, that's not to say that they can't team fight. They have Xayah, who's great in the late game. You have the Rakan, who acts as an engage tool. And the ability to dive into the backline with Aatrox and Olaf can be good. But ideally, you want to find a flank because they don't have this big tank that they can really play around. So, and Ryze, the later you go into the game, he doesn't do that well into tanks. Like he doesn't threaten the backline that much. So G2 aren't in the best of situations, and they need to be kind of forcing these plays right now if they want to still stand a chance as we approach the mid lane.
It's a really solid rotation there from PVB. They're going to get the tower low, they'll tunnel Shelly up, and they'll take the mid out of very simply.
Yeah, and at the same time, BigKoro was pushing up on the top side. No one from G2 is up there to respond to this, so could be just them going around Lamore and getting all 3 of these outers, and not only will they get it, it should be solo gold, and they're looking for a fight perhaps now on Perkz.
Perkz barely not getting clipped by that Zenith Blade, but gonna have to walk back safely to the tier 2 turret as that outer does fall, and Phong Buffalo up almost 4,000 gold in the early game here.
And this is why we said in the draft, this is a team that you have to respect. They were considered by many fans to be an upgrade from the Gigabyte Marines. Ooh, Pallet using the Hex Flash over the wall there. But considered an upgrade because they don't rely on these crazy picks. They don't rely on trying to snowball an early lead. This team understands how to play around the map. They have a lot of strong individuals, but now G2 trying to fight back.
Now the Storm forced out when he does find the combo, and Perkz able to slay BigKoro. Nice solar flare to maybe get Pallet out to safety, but the chains won't latch as Meliodas does move in with a good ult. Now there's the slow, but Ragnarok pop by the Olaf is going to mean Leona gets chased down, and Naul barely late to the party as PVB try and find a kill but cannot answer back.
Beautiful play there though from Wadid and Perkz, really coordinating to get the kill onto BigKoro, who didn't manage to get either of his summoners off there. Not able to react in time. Had he lived a little bit longer, maybe they can kite that out and get Naul involved, but a great engagement. G2 needed something like that to really slow down Phong, who was really kind of taking over the map.
We were just talking about how G2 needed to try and find something, and this was their opportunity. The mistake here from Pat and BigKoro is overextending on the top side just as a 2-man. You know, there's not enough pressure elsewhere on the map, and I feel like that the ulti just came out a little too early from Koro. He should have used his flash into the ulti to then try and get away from Wadid. And while this was a great ulti from Meliodas, unfortunately, flash was used from Jankos. He can't be CC'd, and then G2 end up finding themselves 2 kills. Still, though, at a 2k gold deficit, and PVB are the ones dictating the pace of the game.
Yeah, certainly sitting in a good position. They're going to go down to the Dragon and look to take this. G2, as you can see, has not done very well from behind. It has been very much about their early game and creating advantages for themselves, especially through Jankos and through some of their individual play. And we'll see now from a deficit how they are going to look against this VCS team, who has really, by all accounts, from a lot of the analysts from this region, been an upgrade over Gigabyte Marines, been a stronger team.
Xayah is doing it again. Looks for the flash, but Wunder.
He's really trying to prove a point against Wunder, isn't he?
And to his credit, the reaction flashes have been on point for Wunder to not get clipped by Disdain. But still, the rest of the team does reinforce, and this tier 2 looking pretty unhealthy for G2.
Yeah, they're going to have to give this one up. It is traded, though, on the other side of the map in favor of G2, so Perkz will trade that. But tier 1 for tier 2, PVB more than happy to take that exchange. Actually, even in terms of Drakes and with the next one spawning, you imagine that PVB have that control because yet to lose their mid-tier 1. And I mean, I only just realized 4 towers to 1 in favor of PVB, a lot of where their early game gold lead is coming from.
Yeah, it certainly is. And honestly, their Baron take is pretty solid, and their Baron turn especially is very, very threatening. So as we approach, the 20-25 minute mark, if they can control vision around that area, they can look for picks with the Leona, with the Gragas, try to turn and find something. They're trying to wait for Perkz' ultimate to actually expire here, but I think he's going to be out.
It's a great umbral dash there from Perkz and barely miss out on getting body slammed. PVB, though, again, back out on the map, and carries are starting to build up items. We have 2 finish with BigKoro. We almost have Super Soaker done for Naul as well, and here's the TP just to defend this turret, as Wunder is pressuring a little bit more in the side lane.
I do have to throw a little bit of criticism in the way of Pallet, though. He has certainly not been on point with his Leona ultimates in particular. Has been whiffing a lot of those, and so much of your success on Leona depends on crisp engages, on finding those picks and being very sure of when you can make them. I do respect the attempts and that he is trying to stay proactive and aggressive on the map, likewise with Zeros, but you have to make sure in the critical fights that you're able to nail those.
Now, Wunder was forced to use the Realm Warp actually into PVB's jungle because he realized, they have mid control, they're now moving through my bottom side jungle, and if I try to run back to my tower, I'm gonna die. So he then just went the other direction. He said, all right, well, your base is my base now, and is able to get away to safety. So quick decision making there from Wunder to get away with his life. But across the board, Hjarnan, he's closed the CS gap. He was 30 CS down after the first tower drop, and while all the action has been going on, he's been steadily farming, closing that gap. The gold gap is still pretty significant. But the fact that he's been able to pick up this farm will be really important for G2 because he's kind of their late game insurance. And as we saw in their series versus Infinity Game 4, when he was on that Jhin and he needed to carry, he was the one that came up clutch.
Really trying to kill Wunder. What a dodge, though. Just steps down and dodges out from the PvB on Jazz. And now Jankos is going to move back in there, but they've already got Pallet in the mix. Wunder is getting low, but Gragas already low as BigKoro. He's going to move in to clean up the fight. Perkz with World Under. He's going to try and make it happen. It's Xayah diving into the backside, but Xayah grabs the double kill. Still G2 reinforcing. Able to get a couple kills here, but the Xayah is still popping off in the team fight. And that's G2 running away.
Really questionable team fight from G2 that PVB are more than happy to take. They didn't even have Naul, and now they have 4 members left alive. That ends up being a 3 kills traded for 1, and all of them went on to BigKoro.
Yeah, and that is the really big deal there. They're going to be able to push up mid lane here as well, potentially threaten some of these turrets, taking away a little bit of the jungle also. PVB are just non-stop looking for these picks, looking for these fights. They're doing a very good job of controlling vision in G2's jungle. And if you look on this side of the map, G2 really sees nothing. So anytime Wunder moves forward, they are non-stop attacking him. They're making him very scared to move out on the map.
But the thing is here is like they could have gotten out, but instead G2 chooses to fight because they think, okay, we've got Perkz coming in from behind, but as you rightly said, they don't see Pallet there. They think they can win out on this 2v2. It's actually a 2 versus 3. No one, Jankos goes in, he's forced to back away, and they're thinking, okay, Perkz is here, maybe we can win this, but good stopwatch from Meliodas. BigKoro's positioning is great because he's not in any real danger. He even tries to go for the 1v1 against Hjarnan, who's forced to flash over the wall just to get that kill onto the Gragas. But in the meanwhile, PVB are finding themselves 3 kills, and like, yes, PVB, they're playing these fights extremely well. They're getting their kills onto the right resources, but multiple times, G2 have made some very questionable decisions.
Yeah, they really have, but I think they're feeling a little bit of the pressure, perhaps recognizing that PVB may have an advantage in the 5v5 in the later stages of the game, and that can make you feel like, hey, you need to find fights. Hey, we need to do something now, and perhaps being a little bit too over-eager to find some of those opportunities.
Well, nice job checking that brush by Naul's Twin Shadows, but Phong Buffalo now going to move into the Baron area and look to threaten this. They've had such a good time pressuring a very long bot lane that I think G2 have really opened up this space for PVB to kind of translate over to and threaten the first Baron of this game. We're still very early on as well. I mean, we've talked about PVB being the team in this game to have strong late game insurance when the team phase rolls around, but they've just done a good job getting ahead pretty early into this one, and G2 feeling that pressure feels even worse as Jankos going to be forced to burn Ragnarok.
And G2 need to recognize that they don't have control over their own jungle right now. G2 tried to find a pick onto Xayah, but he's going to quickly disengage from that one.
Oh, what an ult! There's a Zenith Blade there. Jankos going to go down. That could be Baron.
Yeah, they could head straight for it. We'll see if they do. Xayah is trying to clear out this mid lane, and there's no ultimate on Perkz, so they actually are trying to chase for a fight right now, but I think they should have just gone back to Baron.
Yep.
They have the ability to turn with Meliodas having his ultimate up, and they may start it up now. Jankos is still dead for quite some time. They are starting the Baron. There's no ultimate on Perkz. Will be very hard for G2 to find a way in.
Wadid has his engage, Hjarnan has his engage, and I think they do get them spotted. There we go.
Wadid goes in for a counter over the backside, but they might just finish the Baron. Naul able to flash out of the way as Pallet. He's trying to run for the hills. The Baron is dead. Pallet is just sauntering out slowly. They might try and chase him. Perkz will land the knockup. The follow-up is good. Pallet may just give his life for the cause. They will get a kill, but PVB say worth.
But again, Jankos makes the crucial mistake. In the draft, we talked about how you can't rely on the consistency of G2. During the regular season, they showed that on one game, they looked like the best team in Europe, and then the next, they looked like the worst. And a lot of it came off the back of their jungler, making these crucial mistakes. And here's another big one from Jankos. He burns his ultimate after sitting on top of a ward. He tries to clear it out, and this is fine, but at this point, you have to disengage. You have no control. He then walks around right into the face of PVB, who are like, okay, we're more than happy to take this kill. And it just feels like G2 or Jankos is disrespecting this PvP squad, who are more than capable of punishing this G2 roster.
And Jankos could be in a bit of trouble here again. And Gragas actually did complete his base.
Oh my goodness, that's so much damage.
What is he doing?
Make it space.
I'm so confused by the decision-making of Jankos right now. Because even then, right, like, you kind of look at how the game state has gone, and Hjarnan did a good job of closing the CS gap. He was slowly getting more, more and more farm, and then the enemy AD carry picks up 3 kills, and now he has 2,000 gold advantage over his lane opponent. Same for Naul. He's now sitting at 2-0-0, nearing completion of his third item, which was a death cap. PVB are sitting on the Baron. They're looking really good with how they're constantly punishing these mistakes, and now they're primed and ready to just break into the base of G2.
Yeah, and I honestly agree that that one was a real head-scratcher. The solo play from a tank Olaf, like, I'm not really sure what he's looking for at that point, and had Meliodas actually not completed his base, they would have just killed him there, but either way, PVB are pushing up mid lane and potentially could just crack the base here.
Yeah.
Hex flash from Pallet. He's going to threaten. They will take the tier 2. Still minute 30 left on this Baron, so time to get in and try and take an inhibitor. Xayah's pretty tanky, but Wunder does lock him up under the turret for a shot or two.
Here's a flank from Wadid, but he's sitting on a ward. He's going to get spotted.
Twin Shadows again, coming up clutch for this Vel'Koz, and that turret's dead. Wadid is way too far out of position at this point, and G2 can't really defend right now. Looking to maybe lose a 4v5 at their inhib if they choose to fight.
Yeah, Naul is just staying back, zoning him, and knowing that even if Wadid comes around and engages onto him, they won't be able to kill the Vel'Koz without additional help. Yep. So this is just really strong play here from PVB. There's no cheese about it. There's no anything other than standard macro play, and they're straight up outplaying G2.
And you kind of look back at the best of 5. Ooh, they may have found Xayah.
Hjarnan ulti's in. Perkz already going to grab another knockup, and that's a good kill. G2 going to pick it up as Wadid, going to maybe try and turn it back around. He engages with Perkz. Already popped world under his Jankos. Completes the flank, but the Xayah still alive. BigKoro is just forcing out the DPS. Perkz is going down. That's going to be a double kill. Make it another triple for the Xayah from the bot lane. And Hjarnan and Wadid head for the hills, buddy.
Yeah, BigKoro is just way too strong. He's going straight for the bottom lane inhibitor. All these guys have to do is delay.
Supercharger trying to dance around there. Power does miss that Zenith Blade critically. And Hjarnan is able to get a kill. Probably going to go down as well. The hopes of G2 rest on Hjarnan as he does grab the double. But meanwhile in bot lane, BigKoro is just pushing the minions in and cracking yet another inhib.
While that was an admirable fight from Hjarnan, doing what he can to help G2, they still end up losing 2 inhibitors. That fight was played so well well from Pallet and Meliodas. The fact that they were able to execute such a clutch solar flare onto the Ryze, followed by a massive Gragas barrel that just split up G2, enabled BigKoro to just melt through that team fight. And you can see here, they start off the pick onto Zeros. They try to shut him down. They think, okay, by getting this fight, or by getting this pick, with 5v4, we can win this one out. But then again, keep your eyes on the solar flare ultimate from Pallet. He lands it straight onto Wunder, and then the Gragas barrel comes out to knock Hjarnan away as well. And in all of this, BigKoro just isn't touched. Such a beautifully played fight from PVB.
Yeah, that Gragas ultimate was honestly perfect. Not only are you knocking out the Kai'Sa, you're knocking in the Ryze to get that kill. And despite the fact that both the solo laners went down from PVB without really being able to contribute anything, BigKoro was so ridiculously strong that if that man is protected, he can shred them. And this is certainly a little bit of hubris there from that duo. All they needed to do was stop the base. They don't need to chase that hard.
Exactly.
So they do give over a couple of silly kills, but still in an incredible position.
I mean, 2 inhibitors are now down for G2. They're 5k gold down. You can see how the 280 carries are the big contributors. You're right there, mate.
There's a lot of damage on that last team fight.
It certainly was, but at PVB, they don't even need the next Baron. They can just group up top. They can continue to siege. They know they have the stronger 5v5. And it's kind of, again, up to Hjarnan to turn this game around. Just like it was in Game 4 of Infinity versus G2 in the play-ins qualifier. It is all down to this 80 carry. 4-1-1 now, 3 items finished. It's going to be such a big play for him to be able to turn this one around.
And I honestly say there's just as much pressure on Wadid. Like, he has to find a perfect engage. That was both the solo laners dying without getting to doing anything, and they still lost the fight, right? Like, if you do not eliminate BigKoro or someone instantly, it's going to look bad, and Wadid may be spotted here. They're going to try to chase him down. Again, they're just zoning him out while they go for the inhibitor. This is such smart play.
And now what did G2 do? You said it. Wadid's the guy that needs to find this engage, and with their main engage being chased away
stealing
by Leona.
Too. Just trying to act as interference while the rest of G2 clear out these minions. Perkz can now be in trouble.
Slowed again. The glacial augment value is continuing to rise here for Naul. Perkz does dash away to safety, but PVB still continuing their assault. They'll just translate back to topside.
All right, so the Baron spawns in about a minute's time, and they can very cleanly use this as a means to either force a fight against G2 or secure it without much contention, because remember, G2 still have 2 waves of super minions that they have to deal with. Full vision control is in favor of PVB in the top side of the map, and things are looking really good right now for PVB.
And that's also why they're sticking so heavily around here, knowing that G2 can't get out on the map to even get jungle vision for themselves.
Up the engage.
Wadid again looks for it, but he only finds Urgot. He's going to get knocked around as he does dance back towards his teammate. But still Zeros looking for it as Perkz. Maybe has a flank here. Zeros taking a few too many turret hits in that exchange. The W from Kai'Sa almost enough for the execute on Urgot, but will not be the case this time.
Now PVB, they got a little overzealous there. They know that the Baron is spawning in 30 seconds, yet they choose to go for a fight. If that had gone badly, G2 could have maybe converted that into a kill, but Perkz, he's going for more.
Back in on, but Zeros flips him around. PVB, they've actually made them take the bait. Zeros, he is going to die, but Perkz will go down as well. Resurrects for a little while longer, might actually live. Does have the flash, needs the dash, gets out of there, but Naul able to clip him as he moves his way over the wall.
Yeah, critically, Jankos had to use the ultimate to retreat as well, which makes it harder for him around the Baron. His flash is still down for a bit. We may see PVB just straight up started. I think they will. BigKoro can shred this Baron.
All right, where is Jankos? He has to try and find a steal, but
how?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's their only option right now. If they lose this Baron, it's likely game for PVB. Here comes Jankos.
Oh, no, so well. He snipes out the jungle. He's going to force the watch. He just needs to buy time. The Baron's almost dead. The Vel'Koz may go down as Hjarnan Killer Instinct's over to try and collect him, but I think it's well worth the price he paid here. Hjarnan, he's going to miss that W. Naul might be able to find a crazy 1v1 outplay, but no, not the case as Hjarnan now unstoppable, continuing.
Look at the flank from Wunder. They're trying to get a collapse onto these 3 members.
Maybe they can move a little bit more back in, but I think they'll just try and fight. Awkward blast cone there from the jungler, but a good ult out. Oh, the Rebels only grabs one. Wadid now forced to dance over as Zeros is back out on the map. We're going to try and chase down a carry. Wadid continuing to run interference all game long, though. This bot lane is doing so much heavy lifting for G2.
I mean, cue the Benny Hill music. Wadid is taking him on a merry chase, but PVB do not need to continue chasing this. Reset, fire items. You have Baron. Go take down the inhibitors that are open and look to close the game. Look to force on that 3rd inhib. If you can triple inhib G2 here, they are going to be so locked down on their base, you need to just simply walk up.
And so this is after both the top laner for PVB and the mid laner for G2 go down. G2, they realize that they can't get anywhere near the Baron. They have no vision in their side of the jungle. And you end up face-checking Naul, and he gives it...
Right between the tentacles.
That was great. He's like, all right, you might get me, but we get the Baron. I'll see you later, good sir. Good stuff there from Naul. He does his job, and now PVB with the Baron, with the gold lead. G2, after a huge upset win yesterday, now face their first loss of the World Championship against PVB and could really spice up Group A.
And for me, you know, PVB's loss kind of felt a little bad. It feels like pick standard and loss. This game feels like just inverse. They pick standard and they're winning pretty handily against G2.
And it wasn't Xayah that had to do it. He's their superstar. He has, you know, gone fairly even overall against Wunder. Yes, he is definitely behind in farm now, but the laning phase was fairly even. It has been the rest of the team doing a lot of the heavy lifting, which is encouraging to see that they can win in these different ways against some of the best players here. I mean, BigKoro himself is absolutely massive in this game. He's sitting on 90% crit now with that second Zeal. When he completes another Shiv or whatever he wants to buy, he's going to have his 100% crit. He can kill anyone on G2 in a matter of seconds.
Well, this could be the final stages of this push here as G2 try and find an angle into this team fight. Baron still up for a minute. In-hits have respawned. So Phong Vu Buffalo looking to again put the capstone on this game.
I do feel like PvB could threaten multiple lanes, but instead they're just going to group up mid. Keep your eyes on the potential flanker engages. Hjarnan is hanging up in the front line. Loses Banshees already.
Oh, Wadid goes in again on the front line. They're going to try and dive back in. Perkz going to try and make something happen, but BigKoro living for a little while longer. He did have to burn ult. Hjarnan, though, forced to flash out from one of the solo players. The knockup comes in onto Wunder, who's now forced to flash away Perkz. He's in there, but the Whirlwind is down. And Xayah has already used the ult, so no sniper.
Also has his ultimate here.
I mean, Jankos is all the way back around the fight. I don't know what they can really do. PvP that is running G2 around in their own base as BigKoro moves in for cleanup duty. Pallet takes down Wadid and support or combat as Perkz is fighting the jungler and losing. And Phong Vu Buffalo, it just feels like they can't put anything out of place. They're going to move in and smash this Nexus.
PvP still have 5 members alive. Only 2 Nexus turrets stand in their way. G2, there's nothing left.
Hjarnan still alive. Is there something? No, it's just Wunder. Realm warping in to pad the KDAs of Phong Vu Buffalo. Yesterday it looked a little shaky, but today it looks extremely clean as Phong Vu Buffalo take down G2.
No one is safe at Worlds 2018. Favorites be damned. The Phong Vu Buffalo turned in an incredible macro game here against G2, looking so strong across the board and tying them up 1-1. It's a FLICKR who's sitting in last.
And like Phong Vu, they made a lot of great plays this game. I think Xayah did an excellent job playing hyper-aggressive up against Wunder. Meliodas having so many great Gragas ultimates in the team fights too. BigKoro, the AD carry, who is really the big carry of this game. But also, Jankos had an awful game that was so regularly punished from the side of PVB that this was the inconsistency that we thought G2 had moved past, especially when you look in the play-in stage where Jankos overall had a very solid play-ins, but coming into today, that was not a good game from Jankos.
Perhaps not enough respect given over to their opponents.
Which is ironic, considering it was a FLICKR who didn't show enough respect to G2. You'd think that they would learn the lesson.
I mean, it's easy to happen, and that play around mid lane for Jankos, dying solo while clearing the ward. He didn't have flash, he didn't have ult, he gets killed by Naul. That really triggered so much in the game.
So much.
Because it meant then they can go bot and dive that. Jankos is not going to be there to answer, and that's where the snowball really did start, so certainly a play he's going to want back.
Certainly catch some mistakes and punish accordingly, but for more on how PVB's first victory here at Worlds, let's send it over to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much. Pacer time, that's exactly right. The first win on the board for Phong Vu Buffalo over G2, who had started hot yesterday. Get knocked down a peg, though, this time around.
And this is why it's so hard to gauge things off of transitive properties and day one results, because G2 had a very strong game, and in this one, even though Phong Vu Buffalo did nothing against Flash Wolves, they were incredibly proactive in this game to pick up their first win.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if we're looking at players, of course, Xayah was someone we highlighted on day one as a top performer for the team. The Urgot going over in favor of him. We heard Vel'Koz giving him a little props for how he played the lane aggressively against Wunder. And I think that has been a large part of what we've talked about in this group is the top lane, kind of prowess, And so how do we feel about that performance there coming out of the top lane?
I mean, I think we were all also really getting behind Wunder, a bit of the hype building up, especially for how well he did against Keem. But it feels like G2 kind of fell off of their own expectations, hit reality, and now everyone's just a little bit more somber. This was a lot more what we expected from G2, what we saw from Plants. Disorganization, not necessarily the individual hyper carry performances that this team can be known for.
Definitely a bit of a sobering performance, right? Because it's more of the G2 that we saw if you just examine their level at play-ins in particular and rewind. This is more the G2 we expected yesterday. And now, of course, the doomsayers will say, what does this mean for the performances going forward? Is it just really the Heimerdinger that inflated them? Finding a way to simulate that would be so important, but BigKoro was definitely the monster in this game for the side of PVB.
Absolutely, and they are undefeated with Heimerdinger, and that goes to show they are much better with it. They weren't able to stabilize bot lane early on in this game, even if later in the game Hjarnan was able to pick up some kills. I think that was more due to the chaos of the moment. One of the standout picks for me in this game was the Vel'Koz, when we had just seen Kuro have a fairly underwhelming performance on it. A better build, in my opinion, for this Vel'Koz with the death cap to really get the damage out of the team fights. But as you can see by these replays, it got a little down and dirty in the middle of the game because too many kind of random deaths at the end of fights. You don't necessarily need to buy the time, but then also little outplay moments as well.
Yeah, very much so. Got dicey in a few moments, but ultimately Phong Buffalo, a couple Barons, and they'll be able to push in for their victory. Frost, what are your thoughts?
This is the big takeaway for PVB. Again, when you look at them...
the dance moves there, pretty great.
When you look at them from their regular split performance, you know, they're not a big cheesy team. This is not the Gigabyte Marines. They're much closer to the style of EVOS where it is clean League of Legends. And yeah, they did get rather shut out against Flash Wolves, but it was really hard to gauge the scale, because now that we recognize how good Flash Wolves really are, it makes PVB look that much more competitive in this group. And with Afrika sliding down and PvP stepping up, suddenly anyone could actually get out second in this group.
If you look at the FLICKR Freaks, now you need to 2-0 PVB. That's the only 2-0 they can acquire, of course, as the 0-2 team. After 2 games played, Afrika are the only 0-2 team in this group. I don't know what the betting markets were like for that. Probably a very speculative choice. And now the 2-0 is needed.
I agree. The fact that Group A is now wide open is solidified by this game. Like, it gives you more hope that Afrika can make it out, because it's the 0-2 start.
I need the hope, Jack.
Right? And we haven't seen since, you know, we haven't ever seen a Korean team start 0-2 at the World Championship. Since 2014, when we've had this format, no Korean team has done worse than 4-2. And I don't think Afrika is going to go undefeated from here on out. But when you have everyone except for Flash Wolves trading games, as we saw last year, it might have even been Group A, it's possible that you get a 6-0 and then a triple 2-4.
I was about to say, you can get out with a 2-4 tiebreak.
Right? And I think that has been opened up as a possibility after watching these teams play 2 games.
All right, well, Phong Buffalo did put the first victory on the board for them in the group stages. The player who had the biggest to do with that is BigKoro. He'll be receiving, MasterCard Player of the Game this time around. 10-1-4 on this Xayah pick.
One of the more experienced members coming out of the VCS region, next to Pallet right there. Really, when you look at this team, the 3 pillars of the team are their superstar top laner in Zeros, and then their collective bottom lane. And I think BigKoro, you gave him the Xayah pick, you gave him the team fight, and you watched him shine.
And I think the MVP was in doubt in the middle of the game. You know, he had 4 kills at one point. You're just like, okay, but who's really the person who's really taking over this game? Some of his execution on this Xayah in the mid-late team fights was just better than Hjarnan was able to put out on the Kai'Sa, and that's really tricky to do.
Yeah, I mean, look at these fights. He's actually getting flanked from 5 different angles, but he's finding ways to stay at full health. His ult timing was great. His feathers were well placed. It was actually extremely mechanically difficult game to play, and he did well.
What's interesting now for me is kind of like if we start to see the dynamic in terms of priority on Xayah. We've already seen a lot of teams first picking her, but the fact that she is so blind pickable, that she's so safe in a lot of these team fights through the ultimate, and that she dominates the lane phase versus a pick like Kai'Sa, we could start to see the tournament meta separate where, you know, maybe only the really confident Kai'Sa players like the Defs, like the Uzis are going to be the person who can grab that pick, and every other team saying, we can't just sack the lane phase, we're getting dove too early, we must have the Xayah.
Quite clearly a pick that we have seen rise to priority, and this is something that I will find to be interesting to track next to another conversation that we began off camera, which is the idea of which role is currently the most important or most integral to victory, you know, in a game of League of Legends. You look back at MSI, a lot of people are going to say, well, at that point, it was the 80 carries. It was the marksman. That's why RNG found so much success.
Well, it's last year, Arden Sensa meta.
Exactly. And so 2 days in, still very much too early to call, you know, and we're seeing a continued development. But I will be curious to see priority of champions alongside priority of lane, Matt. You know, which lane is the most important?
Yeah, and I do think top lane performance is still very important. Because if you're very confident in the Urgot metagame, it opens things up. But also, the power of Urgot is becoming a little bit questioned. It was so dominant in play-in. It's 1-5 so far in the group stage. So the only game we saw win on it was actually Flash Wolves at the start of the day. A lot of these teams are actually finding ways to counter it. After this game, it gets another win as well, sorry.
Right.
But that's one thing, being able to draft both sides with pick ban flexibility. But then secondarily, I do think it is the marksman position.
Right. Okay, marksman position secondarily behind top lane?
It's between those two, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
I actually feel like I have an answer, at least in my opinion. I think for group stage, best of one, it's jungle performance. Jankos had an off performance. I think that was one of the key reasons why G2 fell down. And I think when you find the most successful jungler controlling the game, for best of 5, I think it's the ADC, especially if it goes to game 5. Normally, I have a background in coaching. You sitting in the team, if it's best of 5, game 5, you're going to play slow. You're never going to risk your best of 5 on trying to play an early game. You're going to stack everything up. You're going to go for late game scaling. That's when your ADC counts. And that's why I think if we go to best of 5, the team with the best AD carry will win the tournament if it goes to game 5, because it'll always go the distance.
No, we got 8 out of 48 games in the books. So still plenty of time to decide really where the priority lies. To hear more about that victory, let's send it over to Avli and the PVB top laner.
Thanks, guys. I am here with the victorious PVB Zeros. Congratulations on that game. And I know that coming into Worlds, everyone has kind of had their eyes on you as this solo kill king. But in that last game, we didn't see you pick up a single kill. So when are we really going to see that come out?
Chào Zeros, người vừa có được thắng lợi ở trong cái trận đấu vừa rồi. Trước khi đến với chung kết thế giới, người ta đang chờ đợi một người solo kill king, một vị vua solo kill đường trên. Nhưng mà ở trong trận đấu vừa rồi thì em lại không có bất kỳ một cái điểm hạ gục nào cả, không pha solo kill nào cả. Vậy thì khi nào người ta mới thấy một solo kill king Zeros thật sự xuất hiện?
Thực sự thì trong ván đấu này em đã cố gắng rất nhiều để theo game nãy thì mọi người có thấy thì mỗi lần em dùng lát là em lát lên để đánh với Ryze thôi, chứ mà ít khi comeback lắm. Em cũng đã cố để lấy mấy pha solo kill mà em nghĩ hơi khó. Với lại chiến thuật đề ra là em phải tự lo, nên việc solo kill cũng hạn chế.
So actually in that game I tried a lot of times to flash in and try to take Ryze alone, but it was really tough. And to my team strategy, I had to tend for myself, and so that's why I refrain from trying to solo kill a lot.
And from all the players and teams that I've talked to, no one is quite sure what to expect from your team. They kind of see you as a mystery team that could either be maybe just a wild card team or one that could potentially take all of Worlds. So what do you think of the rumors, and what do you really want to prove with your performance here?
Đến với giải đấu này thì chúng ta như một cái bí ẩn đối với tất cả các đội. Họ đánh giá rằng chúng ta có thể là một đội rất mạnh, rất khó lường, hoặc là chúng ta có thể thắng tất cả mọi thứ ở tại giải đấu này. Vậy thì em nghĩ như thế nào về những cái lời đồn đó, và em muốn chứng minh cái gì ở tại giải đấu này?
Nghĩ họ nghĩ về mình cũng đúng thôi, bởi vì họ cũng chưa biết gì về mình nhiều, cũng như cái khu vực của mình.
Em muốn chứng minh cái gì ở tại giải đấu này?
Em muốn chứng minh cho các chứng minh ở chung kết thế giới này là team khu vực Việt Nam cũng có thể phát triển mạnh mẽ hơn, không kém các khu vực khác.
So actually the first thing I want to say, the rumor is true, and the reason why is nobody knows about us, nobody knows about our region, and in this World Championship I want to prove that we set a strong region and we are no less than any other region.
Well, Zeros, thank you so much and congratulations again. And for everyone else, stick around, because after the break, we're going to see 100 Thieves take on Fnatic.
Trying to do this what he can. Oh, goodness. He face checked the ulti, and that's a first blood for Naul.
Here is Meliodas again on the bot side.
Flash.
Yep. Again, Hjarnan going to be the target. What a beautiful solar flare. Perkz with World Under. He's going to try and make it happen. As Hjarnan dives into the backside, but Xayah grabs the double kill. Still G2 reinforcing. Able to get a couple kills here, but the Xayah is still popping off in the team fight. Jankos completes the flank, but the Xayah is still alive. BigKoro is just forcing out the DPS. Perkz is going down. That's going to be a double kill. Make it another triple. PvP and is running G2 around in their own base as BigKoro moves in for cleanup duty. Pallet takes down Wadid and Sepulchral combat as Perkz is fighting the jungler and losing. And Phong Buffalo, it just feels like they can't put anything out of place. They're going to move in and smash this Nexus.
Welcome back to Assist of the Week. During the TSM and Cloud9 qualifier match, Cloud9 was looking to solidify their lead against TSM. Near Baron, Zeyzal and Blabber launched themselves into TSM, causing them to retreat. This scare tactic allowed Cloud9 to use their ultimates efficiently and take down 4 members of TSM.
The fear, here comes the dive, they'll pick up Mithy, and now Hanser might have been up more than he can chew, doesn't find the pullback. It's a 5v3, he's still diving with the ultimate. Oh!